So, Donald Trump has released his budget plan for the United States, and I'm going to go through it one by one and talk about all of it, the good and the bad. Okay, let's start off. The first thing is the Agriculture Department, which he has cut by $4.7 billion, or about 21%. This includes eliminating the $200 million McGovernor Dole International Food for Education program because you can't have poor people getting food or education. It eliminates the $500 million water and wastewater loan and grant program, whose entire goal is to keep water clean. You can't have those poor people drinking clean water. It cuts women, infants, and child nutrition assistance from $6.4 billion to $6.2 billion, which I will give him as a modest amount. The fact he kept it at all was surprising. I mean, he probably thought that wasn't much, considering how that's still less than he's made in his life. But he's going to represent the common man. It reduces the staff in the United States Department of Agriculture because, of course it does. And it cuts $95 million from the Rural Business and Cooperation Service, which is responsible for economic development programs. So right off the bat, we've got some issues. Then there's the Commerce Department, which he has dropped by $1.4 billion, or 16%. Cutting the $250 million from coastal research programs that ready committees for rising seas and worsening storms. Basically, he's cutting people to inform the public when a storm is about to come. Donald Trump versus the Weather Channel. He eliminated the popular $73 million Sea Grant program, which operates in conjunction with universities in 33 states. Donald Trump versus dolphins, basically. It eliminates the Economic Development Administration, which gives out grants in struggling communities, even though he was for building infrastructure, but we're going to ignore that. He's president. He doesn't have time for things like consistency. And it cuts federal funding to manufacturing extension partnerships, which contributes to the growth of well-paid jobs, dynamic manufacturing committees, and American innovation and global competitiveness. So what's the problem? The Defense Department got a boost, getting a 9% increase, or as they call it in the Defense Department's committee, $52 billion. This includes increasing the size of the Army and Marine Corps. But remember, guys, Trump is for small government. Even though he is increasing the size of the military, which is a factor of government, he is for small government. Increasing the number of ships in the Navy's fleet. But remember, small government buys F-35 Joint Strike Fighters more rapidly, but remember, and increases spending to keep Air Force combat planes ready to fly. But remember, guys, remember, small government, unless we like that government, in which case, let's just make it as big as possible. The Education Department lost 14% of its funds, aka $9.2 billion. Remember, the Military Department increased by 9%, and that was $52 billion. It cuts $3.7 billion in grants for teacher training, after-school and summer programs, and aid programs to first-generation and low-income students because we cannot have those children learn. Otherwise, they might learn that I am not a good president, and we can't have that. It significantly reduces federal work-study aids to college students as well. Because, again, we can't have anyone getting any aid. We gotta make it as hard as possible for people to get rich so they can stay as poor as possible their entire life. But hey, there were some increases, such as it increased charter school funding by 168 million, the thing that has been proven to be a scam. It creates new private school choice programs with 250 million, aka that thing that has been proven to have no real standards, and spends 1 billion to encourage districts to allow federal dollar men for low-income students to follow those students in the public school of their choice. Okay, that's actually positive. I'll give you that, Trump. That sounds pretty positive. The other four are pretty negative, but hey, 20%, that's an F. In school, which he is in the process of cutting. The Energy Department received a 6% cut at $1.7 billion. This includes cutting $900 million from the Office of Science because Mike Pence hates science. It eliminates the Energy Star weatherization programs, APRA, Advanced Technology Vehicle Manufacturing Programs, and Title 17 loan guarantees. So my joke about Donald Trump versus the Weather Channel doesn't seem to be too far off. And it gives the Yucca Mountain Project $120 million to start licensing operations. And I'm sure Coleman Francis is very happy about that. The Department of Health and Human Services got a 18% cut at $15.1 billion, including decreasing funding for the National Institution of Health and Center program to train health professionals because we can't have doctors, then people might live. Wait, what? And increases fundings for efforts to prevent and treat opiate addiction. Okay, that's actually positive. Again, I'll give Donald Trump that much. The National Institution of Health got another 18% cut, decreasing by $5.8 billion. Donald Trump eliminates the Foreign Tea International Center, which builds partnerships between the U.S. and foreign health research institutions, because America first, especially when it comes to health. I mean, we are the best in health with our #1 obesity. Wait. And having some of the lowest life expectancies in any first world country. Wait. You just can't make this up. The Department of Homeland Security got an increase by $2.8 billion, or a 7% change. Donald, however, did cut $667 million from grant programs to state and local agencies, including pre-disaster migration grants and counter-terrorism funding. So, natural disasters get cut, and I guess we are no longer fighting against terrorism. What? It did, however, raise the TSA passenger security fee, because we need to spend more money on something that's been proven to not work. The Department of Housing and Urban Development also took a cut at 13%, or $6.2 billion. He eliminated the $3 billion Community Development Block Grant programs, eliminates the Home Investment Partnership Program, the Choice Neighborhood Program, the Self-Help Home Ownership Opportunity Programs as well, and eliminated the $35 million for the funding of Section 4 Community Department and Affordable Housing. But didn't he say he wanted to increase things like this? But he did raise the funding for lead hazard reduction from 110 million to 130 million. Okay, those are positive. Again, he's doing horrible, but a little less horrible. The inferior development got a cut from it's been cut by 12%, or by $1.6 billion. It eliminates funding for the 49 national heritage aids, decreases funding for land acquisition by $120 million, but increases wildfire suppression funding and is likely to see more marginal increases. Okay, I'm not really all that familiar with those programs, so I'm not really the guy to talk to on those, but that sounds, The Justice Department got cut by 4% or 1.1 billion. This includes cutting fundings to reimburse states and local governments for costs of incarcerating certain undocumented immigrants. But didn't he say he wanted to get rid of undocumented immigrants? Why is he taking funding away from programs that make it illegal? It cuts almost $1 billion for funding of federal prison constructions. Okay, I guess we'll just all have to move to private prisons now. But it does add $249 million for funding for the FBI, largely aimed at counterterrorism. But didn't he just cut it earlier on? Cyber threats, more timely firearm purchase background checks, and more crime data. Okay, I can get down with that. And adds $80 million to adjacent immigrant removal proceedings and hires more attorneys. Okay. Okay, adding more to public defense. That's really good. So this is about a 50-50 type thing. As for the Labor Department, he eliminates the Senior Community Service Employment Program, which helps low-income seniors find work. Because you can't have those low-income seniors making money, because then that might stimulate the economy. And it closes poor-performing centers for Job Corps, a job training program for disadvantaged youth, because we can't have the disadvantaged youth finding jobs. Don't know why we can't, but we can't. It eliminates grants that help nonprofit groups and public agencies pay for safety and health training, because we can't have people be paid in safety and health training because we don't want people to be safe and healthy. And it expands efforts to reduce improper payment made to people receiving unemployment benefits. Okay? Don't really know how I feel about that. The State Department, USAID, and Treasury International Department received a 29% cut, or $10.9 billion. This including eliminating climate change prevention programs. Remember, Donald Trump wants to keep America safe. That's why he was increasing funding for the military. Unless it's from climate change, of course. It reduced fundings for UN peacekeeping, which is okay. The UN's not really all that good. Reduces funding for development banks such as World Banks. Okay, I can get down with that. And reduces more cultural exchange programs, but keeps Fulbright programs. Okay, don't really know how I feel about that. I don't know much about that, honestly. The Transportation Department received a 13% cut at $2.4 billion. It shifts air traffic control outside the government, getting a cut. Eliminates funding for many new transit projects and supports for long-distance Amtrak trains. Eliminates $175 million in subsidies for commercial figures to rural airports, because we can't have airports. And cuts $499 million from Tiger Grant programs, which has funded dozens of roads. But again, Trump just wants to make infrastructure great again. That's why he's defunding all the roads. The Treasury Department received a 4% change, or a $0.5 billion cut, but it reduces funding for international revenue services by $239 million, because we can't have revenue, even though it keeps the economy going. It eliminates grants for community development financial institutions, which provide financial services in economically distressed neighborhoods, because we can't have people learning finances. Otherwise, they might not be poor anymore. We just can't have that. It increases the Department of Veteran Affairs. Not much to say there. That's fine. Oh, God, this keeps going. Okay, we're going to make this quick. EPA receives a cut because, of course, it does. Again, Trump wants to keep America safe, except from pollution and climate change. NASA receives a cut, but only a 1% cut, or $0.1 billion, which isn't too much. But again, can't explore space. Small Business Administrations gets a 0.1 billion cut, which I guess is fine. Arts and Cultural Agencies receives a $1 billion cut, or a 100% change, actively getting rid of it. This includes eliminating services like public television and radio, including PBS and NPR. Again, this is just Donald Trump versus the Weather Channel. And that's Trump's budget overall. So what do I think? I give it about a high F. Some of the stuff in here I do definitely agree with, but most of the stuff in here I think will just hurt the economy more than help it, and that's really it. I'm Cifro Joe, and good night.